Donald Trump's latest trade war just backfired spectacularly. After vowing to slap 50% tariffs on imported steel, the US triggered a response that no one in Washington expected. Ontario, Canada, America's energy lifeline, struck back with a 25% surcharge on electricity exports, directly hitting 1.5 million American households in New York, Michigan, Vermont, and Minnesota. What started as a move to protect American jobs has now morphed into a full-blown economic showdown. This isn't just about steel anymore. It's about energy, autos, coffee, seafood, and global supply chains. Tonight, we unpack how this trade duel is already shaking the US economy, forcing factories to rethink production, and leaving American consumers paying the price. At a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump proudly announced, "We're going to bring steel tariffs to 50%. We're protecting American industries."
We are going to be imposing a 25% increase. We're going to bring it from 25% to 50%, the tariffs on steel into the United States of America, which will even further secure the steel industry in the United States. Nobody's going to get around that.
The rhetoric sounded strong, but the reality hit hard. Canada remains America's largest steel and aluminum supplier, providing over $15 billion in trade annually. With the sudden tariff hike, US steel prices surged, driving production costs across key sectors like Detroit's auto industry, Ohio's construction hubs, and New York's industrial zones. Experts warned that these tariffs could spiral into raw material inflation, reminiscent of 2018. Yet, Trump's administration expected Americans to believe that paying up to 40% more for steel would somehow save American jobs. But Ontario had a counterstrike in mind. Gone were symbolic gestures. The province moved decisively, imposing a 25% surcharge on electricity exports, the backbone of energy for the Northeast US. Ontario Premier Doug Ford declared,
"This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each in every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans. Let me be clear, I will not hesitate to increase this charge. If necessary, if the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely."
If the United States can use tariffs to protect its steel, then Ontario has the right to protect its energy. This wasn't just political theater. The move directly targeted 60 terawatt-hours of electricity flowing annually from Canada to the US, worth $2.5 billion and powering millions of homes and businesses. Detroit automakers felt the pinch immediately. Material costs surged 20 to 40%, forcing some to consider cutting production or shifting orders overseas. Ohio's construction sector and industrial zones across the Northeast faced the same strain. Energy experts warned, even a 10% reduction in Canadian power could force the US to rely on fossil fuel backups, driving electricity prices up 15 to 20% and sending carbon emissions soaring. The message was clear. Ontario held the ultimate trump card. 3 months after the steel tariffs kicked in, Detroit's auto supply chain began unraveling. US automakers like Ford, GM, and Stellantis were hit hard by rising material costs and slower supply chains. Reports suggested a potential $17.7 billion hit to the US auto industry, with Detroit's Big Three shouldering $41.7 billion collectively. For every car, added costs for imported parts could be nearly $5,000, and fully imported vehicles could jump over $85,000. Meanwhile, Ford was investing $3 billion in Ontario, including $2.3 billion specifically for Super Duty trucks, creating 1,800 jobs even as American plants were slowing down. GM and Nissan faced multi-billion-dollar losses, leading to layoffs and reduced production. The irony? While the US tried to punish Canada, Canada quietly expanded production, created jobs, and attracted investment. The trade war didn't stop with steel and autos. The US slapped a 50% tariff on Brazilian coffee, ending decades of duty-free access. Exports to the US fell 46% in the first month, specialty coffee by 80%, and consumers quickly felt the squeeze. A $4 cappuccino? Now $4.50 to $5. A 12 Oz bag of coffee? $11 to $12 instead of $10. Meanwhile, Brazil redirected shipments to Europe and Asia, while Canada quietly increased imports, filling the supply gap. This small cup of coffee now symbolizes a global trade battlefield, where billions in tariffs and counter-tariffs are affecting everyday life. The U.S. lobster industry, particularly in Maine, is facing historic declines. Catches dropped from 111 million pounds in 2021 to 86 million pounds in 2024. Meanwhile, Canada capitalized, exporting premium lobster to China, Europe, and the U.S., leveraging free trade agreements to capture markets Americans once dominated. American lobstermen are seeing income drops, fewer seasonal jobs, and inventory piling up. A $30 lobster dinner could now be $35, a direct result of Canada's strategic export and branding moves. Canada isn't just leveraging trade for economics, it's thinking defense. The Canadian Patrol Submarine Project aims to replace aging vessels, creating thousands of jobs and billions in domestic investment. Meanwhile, U.S. tariffs on raw materials like steel and nickel complicate American defense manufacturing, pushing costs higher. American taxpayers and industries face a double burden: higher domestic prices and disrupted supply chains. Trump's 100% tariff on imported chips was intended to secure U.S. technological dominance. But China quickly pivoted, investing $50 billion into homegrown semiconductor production, while Alibaba and BYU developed in-house AI chips, reducing reliance on NVIDIA. Result: U.S. consumers now face higher electronics prices, AI services costs climb, and domestic companies struggle to maintain global competitiveness. The very tariffs designed to protect American innovation are backfiring, from steel to energy, autos to coffee, lobsters to semiconductors. Trump's tariff strategy triggered a cascade of consequences: rising consumer costs on everyday goods, manufacturing hubs facing material shortages and higher bills, Canadian and global industries quietly capturing market share and jobs, energy and defense sectors exposed to strategic vulnerabilities. This trade war demonstrates a key lesson: when tariffs are weaponized without considering supply chains and global interdependence, the intended protection can quickly become self-inflicted economic pain. Trump's tariff war was meant to protect American industry. Instead, it empowered Canada, triggered inflation, and left millions of Americans paying the price for policy miscalculations. From Detroit to New York, Maine to Michigan, the message is clear: trade wars are no longer abstract debates in Washington. They touch your paycheck, your coffee, your car, and your power bill. America now faces a choice: continue down this path of tit-for-tat tariffs, or return to negotiations before economic ripples become irreversible waves. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell.